You're off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Paul Bain from JUSTEA. Welcome, Paul.
Jambo.
Jambo?
It's hello in Swahili.
Oh, very cool. See?
I say it to people walking down the street now, and it doesn't work here.
I might start using that. We can start our whole...
It's better than hello. Jambo.
Jambo.
Yeah.
What do people do when you say jambo?
You say jambo back, or you say habari yako, which is how are you?
Habari yako.
Nice, nailed it. And then I would say Missouri.
Not like the state.
No, but yeah, that's a good way of remembering it.
Very cool. So thank you so much. People that listen to this podcast on the regular, first off, thank you so much for tuning in on the regular. But I consistently say thank you to my guests. And I'll probably say thank you 3 or 4 times, because I'm a firm believer that the most valuable thing that you and I have is time.
Cool.
So I appreciate your time. And I'm very happy to have you and your brand on the show, as I've been intrigued about the story, and I would love to find out more, again, selfishly for myself, but also for the listeners. So Paul is here representing his company, JUSTEA, and I'm going to let you kind of fill in the blanks. How did we get to this product? Not necessarily this actual one here, but how did JUSTEA become JUSTEA? So take us back as far as we need to go to the tipping point of you, and it is your family, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How did this become a thing?
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. We started in Kenya. We didn't know it was going to start with tea. It was actually my dad who first went there on a trip in 2011. And he went there looking for partners that he could actually invest in. So small to medium enterprises that he could start a business relationship with, a for-profit social enterprise. And at the time, I was just finishing my degree at UBC. I had already been doing some charity work in Uganda, and he had been doing some work in Kenya on the charity side. And so when he got back from this trip, we started chatting, and he said, "Hey, I met this really incredible tea farming community, and one farmer in particular, Davison, and I would love to be able to figure out and explore if there's an opportunity to sell his tea, essentially." And so we did a follow-up trip in 2012. We went back there, and we ended up living with Davison and his family right on the tea garden. So actually plucking tea with him and just learning what it's like to be a tea farmer in Kenya. And we did this for about 10 days. And then after the trip, we went back to Canada. We started talking about what we could do. And one of the key things that really stood out to us about what Davison had told us was that he really wanted to be able to earn a sustainable wage from his tea, but he wasn't able to because he couldn't do what the factory did. That was his main thing. Like all of his neighbors grew tea. There's 500,000 tea farmers in Kenya. They're the largest export tea in the world. But they just aren't earning enough from their tea plucking. And so he said, if we can add value at the farm gate, at the farm level, by making tea that's ready to drink, essentially ready for your teacup, then we have that finished product that's good to sell. And so we said, let's try to sell it. Let's try to market it.
Right.
So we came back to Canada in 2012 and did a bunch of research, linked up with a tea processing master from Darjeeling, and we paid for him to come over, do some consulting and do some training. And after about 10 trips back and forth now over the past 6 years, I guess it's been, this is where JUSTEA's at.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful product. I have the pleasure of sipping now what are we calling it again? The purple chocolate.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I'm getting a ton of chocolate on it, which is amazing because I am a bit of a chocolate freak.
Yeah.
And this is a brand new, I'll use some industry talk, like SKU for you guys, correct?
Yeah, exactly. We just launched it last week. The purple chocolate's super cool because it contains our purple tea from Kenya. And then the organic cacao shell, so that husk of the cacao bean, is the pure form of chocolate. And it actually comes from our friends, our local friends here in BC, East Van Roasters. So we get the cacao shells from them.
Shout out to East Van Roasters.
Yeah, there you go.
Amazing.
And a little bit of rose petal. So it adds a really smooth, delicious, sweet cup of tea without that sugar, that indulgence that you might get from regular chocolate.
Right. So take me back to, you're at UBC, you're finishing up your degree. Did you have any idea that years later you would be a tea captain?
Hell no.
No?
No, not a thing. Like the closest I got to tea at the time was working at Bain Coffee House. That's where I met my wife, Sally. But yeah, at that time, like I was more interested in the espressos and the traditional cappuccinos and whatnot. But tea, I was curious about it, but it wasn't on my radar at all. And so it just kind of happened from that passion that both my dad and I had to working with a country like Kenya, and actually in business instead of a charity. So that idea of trade instead of aid.
Right. Amazing. What was, or at least for your father, what was the initial intrigue with Kenya? Like, is there a backstory to that? Like why he found himself there, or?
Yeah, he had, because of his experience there already doing charity work.
Right.
So he had already some connections with some different NGOs and some charities. And so that's how he initially linked up with one of the tea farmers there and had that experience. And at the time they had met with a whole bunch of other different organizations, from construction people to miners to whoever. And so they went to Kenya with this idea of it didn't have to be tea, it could be all sorts of different industries. And then he came back though, and that relationship with that tea farmer just really resonated with him and with myself and our family. And so that's where the family trade partnership came from.
Amazing. So it is a family run business right now. Everyone is involved in the family?
My mom, my dad, and then myself and my wife, and then our 2-year-old daughter will be involved with the pressure of her father.
Right.
And then I have 2 older brothers and a younger sister, and they're involved by drinking the tea.
Okay, cool. So what does a tea captain do day in and day out besides come onto podcasts and drink tea?
Yeah, I do this actually pretty much every afternoon. No, I'll usually start my day with a WhatsApp call to our key partner in Kenya, Boaz, chatting with him about what's been made that day, because it's about a 10-hour time difference.
Right.
And just so getting an update on how the team's doing in Kenya. And then I'll do all aspects of the business. So from sales and marketing to looking at new products to a bit of operations. That's mostly handled by a key partner of ours, Russ. We call him the doctor of operations.
Okay, cool.
And so, yeah, I'll kind of just have my hand in a whole bunch of different pots and just make sure the business is growing and our impact in Kenya is always growing as well.
That's amazing. It's interesting, something you mentioned earlier when you were describing the business at its core and kind of how it all started. It reminded me a bit of the industry being the hospitality industry. Let's just talking about restaurants specifically. Excuse me. It reminds me of that sole operator restaurant that is finding it really difficult to make a decent wage because the margins are so difficult. Whereas you have someone like a Cactus Club or, you know what I mean? Like something like that, where they have scale and they're able to mitigate a lot of those costs. So the margins are much more padded. So I'm wondering, have you discovered anything through the process of starting out to where you are now, and in ways, obviously, technically you made some changes in regards to what you're doing on the actual tea farm, for lack of a better term. Has there anything else kind of come up that has allowed you guys to, I don't want to say replicate like the economies of scale, but is there anything that this industry can steal from what you guys have learned to allow for this to be a viable business for these farmers?
Yeah, it's when we first went to Kenya, what we're doing now was considered illegal. And we read through the Tea Act of Kenya. There is such a thing. There's a whole tea board of Kenya, and it's their largest export. So of course they'll have this. And Kenya is actually the largest exporter of tea in the world, but not a lot of people know that because it's that ground up commodity style tea that goes into your Liptons, your Tetley's tea bags. So we're trying to do a more specialty tea. But at the time when we were first going to Kenya, in the Tea Act, it says you can have a factory that produces whatever, like 100,000 tons a month of tea.
Right.
So like a ridiculous amount, and you're working with, another 1,000 acres of tea as well. And so that wasn't what we were looking at doing. We wanted to work with a small scale farmer, the one at the very, very bottom of essentially the value chain, and that had just 1 to 2 acres of a backyard of tea. And so we started just by kind of flying under the radar, I guess.
Yeah.
We did some just trainings in different schools and churches about how to hand process tea. So see if we could actually make a product that is a whole leaf, that is a higher quality, not this ground up machine grade tea, And once we found success there, we brought it to the Tea Board of Kenya and the Tea Research Institute of Kenya and started building that relationship. And our key partners in Nandi Hills, the Kata family, Boaz and his wife Jamila, and Father Mzee Jacob and Ruth, they also already had those relationships with some of the key tea people in Kenya. So they were able to introduce us and show that we are trying to create a market and they're trying to create a new type of tea that will add value and will diversify Kenya's offering in the tea industry around the world.
Right.
And so they said, yeah, okay, we'll start a new cottage licensing factory that you can get. And so we were the first ones to under this new licensing. So now it's opened up the doors for other small scale farmers to this in Kenya to get a cottage factory license, a small scale license essentially.
Right. And when you say cottage factory, I'm picturing in my mind like literally a cottage that has a factory in it. Is that really what
pretty
it means?
much? Yeah, it's just a small factory. So it's essentially like the size of a regular Vancouver special.
Right. Yeah, yes. I get it. I went online and I looked at some of your media and some of the videos that you guys have curated, which are great because it adds more context to someone like me who's trying to learn more about what's behind the brand. How difficult was it, that process of taking this to that like jurisdiction and getting this change? Was there pushback? What did it look like? Who's pushing back? I'm assuming it's those bigger conglomerates that don't want a change. They want to kind of keep things the way they are. Did you find challenges in that?
Actually, no, which is amazing.
Oh,
not
great.
yet.
Right.
we were pretty surprised, and it was because of our partners in Kenya, because of how well they believed in as well. Mm-hmm. So we had like a willing customer, JUSTEA, and that wanted to buy the tea and find a market. Then we had a willing producer. And so that just really helped them see like, okay, this is like, we can see this as a true partnership and it's different and it's something that we haven't explored yet. So they're willing to take a chance, I guess, on us. Mm-hmm. And the big guys, the Liptons and the Tetleys, right, we're not on the radar, so it doesn't matter anyways. Yeah. We will be, and they'll probably look back and be like, oh, we should listen to that podcast where Paul was talking about
definitely.
Yeah. But so far it's been okay, and we're doing everything by the book now, and it's been great. And there's about four new cottage factory licenses that have been granted now, so other people are trying to replicate this, and it's hopefully going to just really change the impact on small scale farmers around Kenya.
That's amazing. This knowledge that I'm gaining right now of your brand reminds me so much of an old podcast. Shout out to Jana and Shira from Grain. Cool. Do you know Grain, the company? No. So they're basically taking, and Jana and Shira, I apologize if I'm butchering this at all, but they're taking Canadian products like, what are they using?
Grains.
Yeah, all the grains, you name it, like chickpeas, lentils, all these things that I was ignorant that we even had the ability to grow those and supply those within this country, but we're doing it and shipping it to other places. So they're now highlighting and supporting these farmers and creating a marketplace for them for this fantastic, far superior product. Do you feel like your motivation going into this was heavily weighted in making a change for these farmers? Was that a major motivation for your father, for you, and the business as a whole?
Yeah, that is the key mission for sure. There's 560,000 approximately small scale farmers in Kenya, and our desire, our mission, our vision is to impact 10% of those. We probably won't be able to work with those 56,000 farmers, but we're hoping that through our partnership, whether it's people delivering the tea or doing the quality control, or even carving the spoons that we apply into each tin. That's 30 different carving families now that have full-time employment from those spoons. So cool. We'll get to that point. And so that is where the basis of the business comes from, and why we always try to tell the story of the people that we work with on our website, on our packaging as much as we can.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is beautiful packaging. I think it really stands out. As I was mentioning, I saw it on the shelf the other day at my friend Anna's new place in Strathcona. It's called The Garden Strathcona. Go check it out. But it does really stand out. And for me, it speaks premium. I think it's the same thing that the girls at Grain are doing as well. They're not hiding behind the fact that they're selling a premium product and they're pricing it premium as well, because they know that those dollars are affecting positive change in the industry. One thing that I'm really intrigued as well, again, the more I learn about this, is I look at this and I think of like Tom's shoes, right? Like very much a social entrepreneurial venture. Like they're doing it to make a change. So I guess similar to my question before, were you cognizant of you wanted to create a business that created social change? Obviously helped you guys with a living and afford certain things, but was this always what you wanted to do? We want to get behind a business model that will be positive for those that are involved, but also allow for us to afford a living. Like, how important is that to you guys and to JUSTEA?
Yeah, I think that came from, it is very important to us, and it came from our work that we had previously done with charity, and then also what I was studying at UBC, just looking at that sustainability of donor dollars.
Right.
And of course, charity definitely has a place and a time. But for what we want to do, we figured, hey, let's look at something that can rely on a customer that's satisfied on not only a product that has an incredible story, but also something that is just a really high quality, delicious tea. And they can't get anywhere else. Like there's very, very few companies that offer a fair trade, farmer direct Kenyan tea. Well, there's none that can do Kenyan, but around the world, even it's very difficult to do that with the tea industry. And so we're really proud of that connection that we can provide customers to the farmer directly. We're hoping that people will continue to ask that story of where their tea comes from, or their coffee, or even their clothes that they wear. Just getting that transparency to ensure that everyone alongside that value chain, hopefully it's a shorter value chain. You don't have the brokers and the auctions and all those middlemen that really aren't that necessary if the company is doing its due diligence to connect with the producers and the suppliers.
Do you feel like you go to bed at night feeling like you are impacting a positive change? Like, are you aware of that? Like, are you guys conscious of what the business is actually doing? Or do you feel like it's like living in the city where the mountains are beautiful, but you see them every day, so they're just kind of there? Or are you very cognizant of when people buy this product, it really is impacting, there's a ripple effect and a very positive ripple effect?
Yeah, it becomes more tangible when I'm on the ground in Kenya. So I was there in April. My dad will be there with my mom next month. So we're there a couple times each year as a family. And we're looking forward to the time when we can invite our customers that drink our tea to Kenya to do it.
Amazing.
What we're thinking about is calling a tea safari. So they can make their own tea with the farmers. So they can pluck the leaves, roll the leaves, dry the leaves, and then drink that cup of tea that Brad made. Or else, and then also do it like the classic animal safari, so they can actually see all what Kenya's about and see the impact that they're making from their purchase. But when I'm back there and I meet the people again, and I get to see, where they're living potentially now as to where they were last year, or just see like how thankful they are. They have steady employment. Like the unemployment rate in Kenya for youth goes up to around 80%.
Holy God.
Like it's crazy there. And so we're focusing mostly on youth and women in rural Kenya, because that's what our team has told us of the need. So another big thing that we've been doing is we haven't ever decided like, this is something that we feel will work for your community. We put a lot of trust into our partners and just say, what does your community need and how can we support that? So we let them lead on the ground, whether it's a social project. So we do like a literacy campaign for some of the local primary schools, or just what's needed there with daily food for the factory workers. Like, how does that all work? Because we don't know what we're doing in Kenya. Like we're Vancouverites, right? So you guys are kind of like the Batmen of tea. Do you realize that? I pictured you guys like walking around and just with like your bat cape on and just protecting everyone. Why Batman though?
I don't know. I was as you were talking, I'm like, is it Superman or is it? I don't know. I feel like because you guys are just normal people. Batman's just a normal guy. He makes people feel comfortable and he protects people.
Awesome. But I would put it back. Like I really like our key partners in Kenya, the families that we partner with. I think it's them more so. Well, yeah, it's very, very much a 50-50 partnership. Like we don't own anything in Kenya. We'll provide loans as needed for them to get more machinery for their factory to produce the tea, the equipment that they use there, or to they had a truck failure, so to fix their truck, things like that. But we're just there to try to get the story out there, try to get some of their amazing tea out to people like yourself. So
cool. I love it. Can you explain to me as a layman and the listeners that may be layman as well, what goes into producing one of these? So take us from raw form on the farm to landed here in someone's home or on the shelf of the store?
Yeah. So unlike a lot of tea companies, because we work directly with the farmers, all of our teas are super, super fresh. And then you also just get a higher quality because we have that really closeness with the tea leaf from the bush all the way to your cup. So for our purple tea specifically, purple is super unique. It's a brand new category of tea. So you might have heard of you've heard of a green tea and a black tea, but there's also like an oolong and a white tea and even a rare yellow tea. And so purple is actually a new category of tea. It grows from a purple tea bush in Kenya, which only grows in Kenya. And the reason why these leaves are purple is because the same reason that other purple plants are purple, like blueberries and purple plums and cabbage, they contain a super antioxidant called anthocyanins.
Okay.
And so these are now found in this tea plant. So it's still part of the Camellia sinensis Assamica tea species and varietal, but it grows this really healthy purple leaf now. And we're hoping to put the Kenyan purple tea farmer and purple tea on the map for Kenya. And so our new line of purple teas and the purple chocolate, which we just launched, we'll be plucking those purple leaves and then we'll be letting them wither slightly like you would it with a black or an oolong.
Okay.
And then similar to a green tea, we'll unoxidize it after we get to a withering stage. And basically during the withering, you can't see me if you're listening to this, but you grab the leaves and you like really smell them. You're putting them right to your face and you want to smell like that plum note or that fresh green note. Like you want to be able to smell that flavor that you want to lock in essentially through the unoxidation process. So a lot of people don't know this, but tea comes from just a green leaf. And so the way you process it will result in either a green tea, an oolong tea, or a black tea.
Oh, okay.
So it's just that level of oxidation, which turns it from a green tea to a black tea. Just like if you bite an apple, you leave it on the counter, it starts to turn brown.
Yep.
That's what happens with the green tea. That's how you make it black. You let it oxidize. So our purple tea, to retain the best flavor and health benefits, we'll let it wither slightly, then we'll unoxidize it like a green tea, and then we'll roll it and then dry it, and then we'll pack it up, and then we'll ship it directly from that farm to Vancouver, where we'll do some quality control here. We'll do some blending here, all locally. And then we'll pack it up in your little tea tin and put it on the shelf at your favorite store.
Amazing. That's such a cool story. I had no idea. I have been a few times to a couple tea bars in town. I don't know if that's the right term for it. Tea bar?
Yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. So how does this product, and I say this very carefully, when I go to these tea bars, I think it's beginning to get a little bit like too highbrow for me and like almost unapproachable. Whereas like I don't know a lot about tea, so I feel like when I order something, I'm kind of like offending them a bit because I'm so
it's
ignorant.
Like whenever I try to order any cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. So how would this compare, this product in this tin, to what you would get at a higher end tea bar? Is it very similar, or are they dealing in a whole other realm of tea, or do you know?
They won't have purple tea most likely.
Okay.
Because purple tea is just coming to harvest in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Or it was planted, by small scale farms in 2011. And now it's just coming to harvest in 2014, 2015. So while we've been working in Kenya from our last trip to 2012 to now, we've actually seen the whole growth essentially of the purple tea bush and experimented with the R&D on the processing techniques to result in it having more antioxidants than green tea and less than half the caffeine. So a really healthy benefit, but also that flavor. So a lot of the tea bars are still catching up with what purple tea is and where they can get it. So if you're looking for it, come to us.
Yeah, exactly.
But so you won't really find it, but you'll find that same quality of tea, that quality of tea, that category of purple, the way we're processing it is to that same quality that you would find in some of these tea bars that are uncomfortable for some people.
Yeah. I don't mean to offend anyone that owns a tea bar, but I just find sometimes it's just a little bit, it's a very cool theater to be involved in. But sometimes I just feel like I'm in the wrong place. But
what I usually recommend is just go into those places and just ask to smell some teas.
Right.
And then usually your nose will help guide you through the aroma that the dry leaves are giving off to what you'll like. So if you're never not sure what to ask for, just be like, hey, let me smell like your freshest teas. Right. And that's a good way to end, to break the ice with some of these. Okay. Tea baristas or tea,
I don't know what they call themselves. Tea artists. I was lucky enough to have onto the show Kristen from Hoochie Booch. Hoochie Booch is a local kombucha company, so shout out Kristen. You do amazing things and you're super rad. So would it be blasphemy to take just tea and make a kombucha?
No, not
No?
at all. We do it all the time.
Yeah?
It's delicious.
Yeah? Now, help educate me a bit with that. And this, again, guys, I apologize for being totally selfish with my questions here, but what type of tea is best that you found of your portfolio? What's going to work best to make the best kombucha? Is there teas that you just wouldn't do it with? What would you do it with?
Yeah. So just like a lot of these tea bars, they're going to be serving mostly pure teas. So we do offer a pure oolong, pure green, pure purple, and a pure black on our website, which are very popular for anyone that doesn't like a blended tea. And a blended tea is just basically like something that's blended with different fruits or flowers, or chocolate in this case, which are also very delicious. But for kombucha, you want a pure tea to be able to react with that SCOBY to get that fermentation process and to get the best flavor. So our Mount Kenya Black or our Nandi Hills Black, those pure black teas are incredible for kombuchas. Purple tea is super good as well. It's really unique though, because it's more of that green kind of tea flavor profile.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. It's not as full bodied as a black kombucha would be, but it's still really nice. And then the purple tea, because of those antioxidants, those anthocyanin antioxidants in the tea leaves, naturally, it will turn into this bright pink color while it's reacting with the acid of the SCOBY. So it's like that pH indicator science test that you do. So if you add a base or an acid to it, it will change colors. So it turns into this beautiful pinkish kind of color. So we're trying to get actually more people to drink purple tea kombucha because of the health benefits, and it also just looks really cool.
Yeah.
So we make some in-house at our office, and we'll be drinking it at lunchtime. Russ is the kombucha master.
Oh, okay,
so
cool.
he'll bring in some of his home brews, and
that's
yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty fun.
Maybe there's a collaboration in the future with Hoochie Booch and just
they have a sample.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, we'll make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have you both back on the show, and
There
we'll do
you
like
go.
we'll do like a Facebook Live, and we'll pop it open. That's amazing. Who is your, I'll use the term avatar. So who is your customer when you guys are sitting down building a business plan and talking about Just Tea and thinking about the branding and the packaging? Who is your ideal customer?
I like avatar. That's a good, I haven't heard that yet.
No?
So I hear like your key demographic, which is so boring and so 80s.
Yeah,
I feel like,
I was told avatar when I was building my concept brief for my restaurant that never happened. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, I was told like you really need to dial in on your avatar. So I use that now instead of key demographic because it just sounds cool.
Yeah. It's for people like us. So we have, from what we've seen, we have two kind of avatar personas, I guess. So a lot of people that are interested in a tea that's really functional with health benefits, and also has that transparent story behind it. And then for people that are watching their caffeine, that have a sensitivity to caffeine, is also really, they should drink Just Tea and the purple tea. So we're looking at, people that care about where their product comes from, and also a high quality of tea that has those health benefits and is super unique.
Do you feel like the timing for a product like this is really appropriate? And the reason I ask that is because you mentioned like people caring where their product comes from, pardon me. And I just found that guests that I've had on the show and just watching how I consume products like this and other products that myself and my friends and my partner, we're all asking those questions now more so than we did even 3 years ago or 5 years ago. So do you feel like Just Tea is in the right space at the right time because people are asking those questions? And
I
a lot
hope
more?
so.
Yeah.
I hope so. It's unfortunately, it's been a bit of a lesson for us because we push so much on the story, and we're sort of having to pivot now and having the story as something that keeps people very excited and committed to what Just Tea's trying to do.
Right.
But to lead with it we're finding very difficult. We're finding, even though that's our key differentiator, that's what makes us stand out on the shelf amongst the oversaturated tea category, especially in the grocery store aisle. We have that story. But that's not, people buy a product, buy a food, buy a beverage because of the taste and the value. Like those are the two key driving factors.
Right.
Packaging, you could also say, is up there as well, which we really try to catch people's eyes with. But the story is always something that we've found will keep them buying, will keep them returning to Just Tea. But to lead with it, if we don't tell them clearly that this is, good taste, good value, good packaging, and now with purple tea, it's super unique and great for health benefits, the story will hopefully follow up and just support that. But we just haven't. We started with just pushing on the story, and it's been too slow, and so we just found that we're just kind of keeping that as a focus, but to lead with it, we're having to focus on some other things that people are usually looking for.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because I've just wrapped up working for one of Canada's oldest independent brewery. So I've worked in the beer business for 5.5 years as a non-drinker, which is very challenging. But one thing that I found for me in this market, so it's the company is Moosehead. They're from New Brunswick, started back in 1867, still owned by the same family. Like, cool. Great story. And I have actually found the opposite of what you're saying, is that when I do have the opportunity to tell the story, it really does shift the needle for people. They're really motivated then to go shop with their dollars and support that. So I'm just not sure, maybe because I'm talking about a 151-year-old company, and you guys have been around since
2012.
Right. So 6 years, right?
So yeah, I would totally agree with you. I think like if we're doing a store demonstration or chatting like this, or if someone's reading the website, we're going to tell the story, because that's why we're special. But in that small little like 4 centimeter real estate spot on the shelf, it has to be about what stores, what shoppers at the grocery store are looking for initially. Right. That key thing for the health benefits, the price, the packaging, the value has to be there for them. And then they pick it up, and then they see, oh, these guys are different. There's a farmer on the package. We can learn about Jamila. Right. Hey, we can talk to Jamila on Sunday on their Facebook Live from Kenya. Like, there's all sorts of aspect to the business to bring people into the community, to make them feel like they're part of the JUSTEA family, which is what we want to do. Right.
Very cool. So yeah, it's just, and that's the interesting thing about a space like this in the retail world, is because there is, like you said, so much noise and so many choices. So how do you convey that message, but not in a pushy way, in a very subtle way that just, like you said, intrigues them enough to grab it, pick it up, and have a look at it. How steep of a learning curve has that been for you? Let's talk just the marketing and the packaging side. Has that been something that's been very challenging for you personally, or have you kind of found that's been like a flow state for you where it's really natural?
It's probably my favorite part of the business, besides being in Kenya and making tea with the farmers. I didn't study it at all, but it's something that I would definitely just put my glasses on and headphones on, just dive right into, and just, I love the collaboration with the designer, with the copywriter and everything. It's also something that I find is a bit of a crutch that I lean on when I'm like, I don't want to do these other parts of the business.
It's the fun stuff to do.
It's the fun. I really enjoy it. Yeah. So I feel like it's come quite natural to me, and I've had the pleasure and blessing of working with some really incredible designers and people that really have been able to transform our passion for Kenya and the people there and the tea that they create into a presentation on the shelf in our packaging. I really love that part of the business. I also love just walking down the grocery store and looking at other products and be like, why would you choose to make it like that? Like, why would you choose to use that font, or what's going on with that color scheme there? Like, what are you guys doing? So I really love exploring what other people are doing and trying to like always improve how our messaging comes across. And we can definitely do a lot better, but it's something that I really enjoy in the business.
Yeah, I think this industry really lends itself to people that are very forward thinking. I almost look at it like almost like fashion a bit, where you go into a shop and it's summer, but they're selling fall, winter. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're always thinking about, they're launching next season before it's even.
Yeah. So we don't do that. That's for sure.
No, I know.
We're not planning ahead like that.
but you probably have some foresight in regards to kind of watching trends and seeing what works and what doesn't, and then you're at least like testing it and seeing what sticks and what doesn't stick. And I think that's what I was trying to say, is it's that part is fun about like, can we be the next leader in tea packaging, or the font we're using? Can we be the ones that set that trend? And again, coming from the beer industry, there people are always fighting for, you're fighting for dollars, right? So I can only imagine how fun that would be, like you said, to walk into a grocer and just look at everyone else in the tea and just pick up their packaging and study it and understand why and
obsess over
it. One thing I wanted to see if you had any information you could share with listeners, people that maybe have an idea or are even past an idea, have a product, and they're looking to get it packaged and shop it around to major grocers, whether it be bringing in product from out of country or something domestically. Is there anything that you can share with them in regards to hacks that you have learned along the way that you're like, oh my God, if we knew that when we started, would have been really, really valuable, whether it is the sourcing or any red tape in regards to like legislation or rules like with the food and health? Is there anything that you have kind of found that was a surprise to you before you got into this?
The minimum order quantities are a big pain in the ass.
Okay.
So to get a package that will have offset printing and will be at a cheaper cost, it's going to be thousands of units. So at the start, to avoid that, we just ordered one tin that was the same for every SKU, and then we ended up actually wrapping it with African fabric,
Oh, cool.
fabric that we get from the marketplace in Kenya.
Yeah.
Not our current packaging, the only ones you can get online. We still do it as like a throwback
Very
to
cool.
our original packaging for our artisanal tea lines. You can still get those African fabric wrap tins on our website. My mom's actually at the office right now cutting fabric
Shout
to
out,
wrap
Mom.
the tins. Yeah, Mod Podge on the tins and everything.
Nice.
Still doing it for 5 years now. So so that's how we did a little bit of a hack. Instead of having a printed tin or something that we had to commit to one flavor that we didn't know if it would sell better than another one, we did this really unique kind of packaging style and just put a little label. We actually used to handwrite all of our labels, so we get a stock label as well and just handwrite it. So and that has its own appeal to a customer. So we got into Whole Foods that way, right? Like you can do all these things and then just evolve from there. So the main reason we switched from that, well, there's two main reasons. One is because we couldn't keep up. My mom couldn't keep cutting fabric and gluing it on tins.
Exactly.
And we also just wanted to be able to have more real estate to tell the story, to have a picture of the person, the farmer that we're working with and everything. But I would suggest just definitely putting something on the shelf, getting out there, even if it doesn't go on the shelf, give it to your friends, test it, see what people are responding to, see how they interact with the product, see how they're opening it, see if there's any weird things that they do that you might not do because you know how it works already.
Right.
See how they react when they're consuming it as well, obviously. And then definitely just see what the competitors are doing. Go into all the grocery stores or wherever you're selling their product, see how they're selling it, see how they're packaging it, see what callouts that they're making. And you should just probably do the same ones and then add your own why you're special, why you're better than the other ones.
Right. I read on this tin a couple awards. The BCFPA Award 2018, New Product Innovation, World Tea Expo 2018. Do accomplishments like this match up with just watching someone buy your tea or enjoy your tea? Are they two different kind of like dopamine hits for you when you get these awards? Is it just like watching someone purchase one off the shelf? Like
that's my favorite thing. Like I used to go into the stores. Well, whenever I go into a grocery store and I know there's Just Tea there, I'll just hover the TL for a little while and just talk to the customers there and be like, "Oh, so why'd you choose Choice Tea instead of Just Tea?" Or hey, if they pick up Just Tea, then why'd you choose that? What made you excited about picking that up off the shelf? What called you to that? Right. And then if they pick out one that's not my favorite, I'll be like, "Hey, actually try this one. It's better."
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I'm that creepy guy in the TL at your Nesters or your Choices.
For some reason, it's got an image of like a Chapters version of your tea where it's like Paul's recommended or Paul's favorite flavors.
Yeah, but Chapters cut us off the shelf. So
we'll cut that out. Screw Chapters.
What was your question though about the
awards? Yeah, like do the awards give you the same gratification that? Like, so these are more like industry awards, right?
Yeah.
These people that like your peers are recognizing you in the product. Is it the same kind of dopamine hit getting that as it is to seeing Joe Blow in the grocery store grabbing your product? Or
definitely the Joe Blow one is more of the excitement for me. Those awards are just brand new. Like we got them within the span of 1 week in June, and those are our first awards, and we've submitted to quite a few over the years, and I think it's a lot of it just how we wrote the application for the award. We just weren't very good at it, or didn't spend enough time on it or something. So by getting these product of the year in BC, and then best new product at World Tea Expo in Las Vegas, it was surprising, to be honest, and it was pretty awesome. And so now we're just like, hey, we can. And for Kenya as well, like they're like, hey, we have award-winning teas. Actually, Boaz, our partner in Kenya, he just submitted for the Nairobi tea trade. So the capital of Kenya is Nairobi, and they submitted for the Nairobi Tea Trade Awards, and they got first on purple tea as well, out of 40 different tea companies that submitted samples to it. So So now they're getting recognition there. So we're just really hoping that these awards help more people like a Joe Blow pick up the product and taste it and enjoy it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who else, I'm always intrigued by this question, is who else in your space? So not all tea, but kind of like your style of tea, like a higher end, affecting positive change, if anyone else doing that. But who else is in the industry populating your space that you're watching and really either impressed by or at least intrigued by what they're doing?
We when we first were starting up, we met with the founders of Level Ground, and they're based in Victoria.
Okay.
And so they do, at the time, they were just doing coffee and they just started tea. So we actually met up with them. We're like, hey, how can we put some tea in your packages? We have some delicious Kenya black tea. Right now you get it from India, and you guys are all about direct trade too. And they do it really well. And now they've expanded into, dried mangoes, you name it. Like they have a whole product line, vanilla bean to direct trade farmer products. And so a lot of our inspiration for the packaging came from them because they highlight the farmer. And we're like, that's cool. Like we want that direct trade transparency on our packaging too. So so we appreciate that meeting and chatting with them. We still chat with them and we still want to figure out how we can collab eventually. But they're definitely a product that I look up to and I really like buying, and I feel really good about buying it. And it's also BC made, so that's cool.
Yeah.
And then other tea companies I can think of, there's not a lot of story companies, and it's tough because unlike the coffee industry, once you pluck that leaf at the garden, it starts expiring, and you got to get it to a factory. You got to get it processed. So to be able to have a farmer's face on the packaging or be able to have a tea company tell that story to the farmer, it doesn't happen because you don't have that company that doesn't have that relationship with the supplier, with that farmer. So they can just tell the story of the broker basically that bought it from the auction, that bought it from the factory, that bought it from the farmer.
Right.
So to be able to get down to that start of the process doesn't really happen. And that's why you don't see a lot of pictures of tea farmers, unlike coffee farmers, where you get a lot of coffee farmers because they can pluck the cherry, then let it sit out and do the thing with the thing and then
I got you. I understand what you're saying.
I'm a tea man.
Yeah. Super technical. But you've been talking a lot about the production, and you've been using some, I'm going to say technical terms. Was that a steep learning curve for you? Like learning about oxidization and learning about different types of teas. Was that kind of a baptism by fire for you?
I did some course leading up to it. VCC puts on a tea sommelier course. So you can,
cool.
Yeah, so you take about 8 different courses, and you can call yourself a tea sommelier if you want to.
Right.
And so I did a few of those, and one of the ones I did right before I went to Kenya on my first trip was about tea manufacturing, and I had no idea what they were talking about when I was studying the course. But when you get there, and we were actually making the tea, I was like, this makes sense. Yeah, rolling the leaves. It's rolling the leaves and oxidation. Okay, now I can see the leaves oxidation. I can smell them. I can see how they're churning the color. I can see why we dried at this point because this is the flavor we want. Oh, I know now we need to dry it for 45 minutes instead of an hour and a half because it will get down to 3% and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So it was, like getting into it and seeing it firsthand is an incredible experience that I have in my life, and not a lot of people get to enjoy. And I'm just very, very happy, and I love getting dirty and just going there and making the tea right there with my hands, and just joining up with the rest of the team and just seeing what kind of unique flavors and also some really terrible teas that we can make.
I bet. What do you take from your trips to Kenya? Before you answer, the reason I ask is because watching your media and looking at other media that I've seen, I haven't had the chance yet, but I will visit Kenya. Maybe we'll do a podcast there one day.
Yeah.
I get excited and I get refreshed and I get so inspired by the people. And I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think it's because there's a camera turned on. I really do feel like everything that they're doing and offering as far as their personalities is super genuine. Mm-hmm. And that really intrigues me, inspires me. So when you go there, is there a different level of excitement, and I'll use the term like joie de vivre? Like I just feel like there's a different zest there and a different level of gratitude. So when you go, are you inspired by that? Is it something that you viscerally feel a difference between being here in Vancouver and then heading to Kenya? Do they have a different vibe?
Absolutely.
And what is that like for you?
It's just very refreshing. So it's you just get this different energy because it is, especially when you get out to the rural tea gardens where we work in Western Kenya, so west of the Rift Valley, In Nandi Hills, it is very rural, very much just tea all over the hills, and it's very community focused. You have to lean on your neighbor to survive. And so it is like that, the sense of individualism that we have in Vancouver, especially, it's lost there. It doesn't exist. Like, you don't have people just sitting on their phones or whatever and checking out Instagram. Like they'll do that there too, right? But it's not to the extent that we have it here. Like it's so community focused. And it's just, I just love that aspect of it, just walking down and just chatting with people that you see on the road, and you could chat with them for like an hour, and like that sense of urgency of hitting the schedule, of getting in front of the TV at a certain time to watch a show or whatever. Like it is so relational, from the community to the business as well. The idea of doing contracts, that will happen in Nairobi, but in the rural Kenya, like you'd come to my house, we'd have a cup of tea together, we'd chat, you'd meet my family, I'd meet your family, and then we could start doing business together. Right. It is very much not like sending a contract by email, you sign it, you scan it back to me, and we're good to go. Right. So I love that aspect of it, and I love trying to bring that back here. And it's tough when you come back here to get back into the day-to-day here, but I feel like that's kept my growth as a person. I just really encouraged and excited about my next years. Do
you feel like that comes through your product?
I hope so. With the idea of that connection to people and putting a face behind the product. And we're always trying to do better at that, trying to invite people into the story and invite people to learn about Kenya and see Kenya. One of the funny things is in Kenya, like they call you a Mzungu, which is basically like a white person. Okay. Mzungu. Okay, Mzungu. And so you'll hear that everywhere. You're like, Mzungu, Mzungu. And it's usually the kids calling out to you, and they're just basically wondering what you're doing there. And but older people too will be just staring at you because you're standing out, especially in rural Kenya. I'm a white guy. Yeah. I'm walking around, like I just stand out. And so everyone's like just looking at you. Then you smile, you say Jambo, you say Habari, and they light up, and they'll come and they want to talk to you, and they're curious about it, about what you're doing there. So like I don't know where I'm going with that.
No, it's all good. I think what you're trying to say is understood. I really do feel like it's a challenge. It is a challenge to communicate those things when you're talking about like a non-heartbeat product. This is just it's just a product. So it's very challenging to tell that story. But
I remember what it was.
Okay, go for it.
Well, because trying to tell that story. So I'm always excited because I want to bring them into the story. So all those photos that you have on the packages are pictures I took of them, and they're always smiling. But to get them to smile behind a camera, like they don't do a lot of photography and social media and that kind of stuff. So you really got to like tell some bad jokes to get them to start laughing at you. So they'll be laughing like Mzungu, like what are you doing? And then so same with like the videos that we'll do, like the videos we have on our website, like there's a lot of B-roll that's just them like just very serious,
like stoic.
Very stoic, and they're just like, we're making tea and this is what we're doing and this is how we make it. I'm just like, just like let's have fun, like we're just casual. But when you put the camera on them, it's very, very serious for a lot of people.
They freeze. So, they freeze. I don't like to repeat a lot of questions on my show, but I do always repeat these two. It is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you, Paul, putting you on the spot, the half a dozen have-tos. Stay with me here. So I need from you, Tea Captain from JUSTEA, I need from you 1 to 6, so 1 to half a dozen of your personal have-tos, something you've experienced in your life, whether tea related or not, food related or not, something that you've experienced in your life, whether it's being a father, whether it's being a husband, whether it's...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. So what are 1 to 6 things that you've experienced in your life, a trip to Kenya, that you feel like the listeners should at some point expose themselves to?
Yeah, that is on the spot, huh? Well, you got to do the father and the husband. Yeah. Those have to be number 1 and number 2 there for me. I think the aspect of travel, but not just travel to explore different countries, but the travel to explore different cultures and people, I think is number 3 for me. That's really what keeps me super excited about the business, the partnerships in Kenya. Yeah. Have tos.
A meal you've eaten, a book you've read,
A
concert you've been to.
I love reading like those self-help kind of business
Oh, me too.
books.
Oh, dude, we should chat. We should definitely chat.
So I was putting off. One of them is the guy who founded Kind Bar, and I never remember authors' names, but that's a really good one. And also the guys who did, which was more relevant to JUSTEA, but the guys who started Runa, Tyler Gage.
Okay, yeah, I know the brand Runa, yeah.
So that's also really cool. But the one I put off for a long time was the 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss.
Shout out Tim Ferriss, yeah.
So I just thought I was kind of like, who is this guy? Like, get away with 4 hours a week,
right?
Like, come on, you lazy bum. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Let's do some stuff here.
Yeah.
But I actually found like his model of efficiency and especially for a startup, like how you focus. Was really beneficial. So I would recommend that one and just try to look past his idea of what money means to him, because it might not be what it means to you.
Yeah, exactly.
And also like his idea of being able to travel 365 days of the year. You can't do that with a 2-year-old and right now that I have. So, but I think reading those books is actually really helpful, especially if you find books that are relevant to your business itself. I would say that, I just had another one. I think finding that balance of being active, learning something, social, and then teaching something is really key that I try to fill my week up with. Right. So exercise, learning, working, teaching, learning.
Podcasting.
Social, yeah. There you go. Like just having that balance
right.
Is very, very important. And then what am I at?
I think that's maybe like 5.8.
Dang. Does that count?
Yeah, dude, you crushed it. Most people do one. I said this many times. Most people do one, they get a flop sweat, and then they just leave. So you've done really, really well. The last one I have for you is the half a dozen haven't yet. So one.
Oh, what? There's more?
Yeah, there's more. 1 to 6. So you can do the flop sweat after 1, but 1 to half a dozen things that you haven't experienced yet. So kind of like a bucket list type thing. A book you haven't read, a trip you haven't taken. A farm you haven't visited yet in Kenya, whatever it may be. What are 6 things you have? Maybe another baby. We know that one's not going to happen, but
don't tell my mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so bucket list. I actually was talking to my wife Sally about this the other day. It's like, hey, should we get a bucket list going? Like, I kind of have a little one.
Okay,
but definitely what's on both of ours is traveling the whole east coast of the southeast coast of Africa. So if we're going down from Kenya back to Tanzania, which we spent some time in a couple of years ago, and then heading over to Mozambique and just doing that whole coast and doing some snorkeling, scuba diving. So that's my next travel trip for sure once I have some time.
Right.
That would be key. I really want to learn Swahili. Like I'm terrible at languages. I did French, I've done some Spanish, but I cannot get by at all. So Swahili I just think is a really fun one, and it's super applicable now. So I really want to be able to get fluent on that, and I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's got to happen.
Can we hold your feet to the flame? Us and the listeners. When are we going to get that done by?
Yeah. Okay. Give me 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Conversational.
So
I can't write. I won't be able to write it.
Okay, that's cool. So 2020, we'll say, what is 2020. It's October. So let's say December 2020.
There we go. Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. We'll check in with you.
So if you have any good Swahili learning language apps, please let me know. They got to be on Duolingo or something.
Yeah, right? For sure. I just met someone who went to Kenya just to learn Swahili.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Oh, this is going to bug me.
Well, send me their phone number and then we'll just have a
they went
chat.
for like an intense 60-day just to learn Swahili. Damn, who is it?
Yeah.
Female. Anyway, it'll come to me.
The thing is, like, so Swahili, like everyone, it's English is their number one, like English and Swahili are their top 2 languages that they speak there. But then there's like 52 different tribal languages.
So cool.
So yeah, it's cool. But to learn Swahili,
right.
Like, you're going there, then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this person only speaks Kalenjin. And you're like, oh, great. Is that the same? They're like, not at all. It's completely different. So,
so you're running around saying Jambo and they're like,
Jambo crosses all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I know if I go to Kenya,
you're good with Jambo.
Everywhere. Good with Jambo. Okay, cool.
Anything
else on that list?
The bucket list. I did skydiving, which is terrifying. I wouldn't recommend it.
Did you do it with someone else?
No, I did the solo thing, hungover, and it was a disaster.
You wouldn't do it again?
I would do it sober, and I would do it with the guy strapped on my back,
like a tandem,
or whatever. Yeah, the tandem thing. Because I just didn't I enjoyed the parachuting part once I knew that the parachute opened, but the free falling part was I was gonna die. that was it.
You didn't though.
No, I guess not.
That reminds me of Will Smith just jumped off of. Did you watch this? He jumped off the
I saw
helicopter.
the clickbait, and I didn't
Oh,
click on it. So.
I did. I definitely did. And I watched 12 minutes. I'll never get those 12 minutes back. But yeah, he did like the backwards bungee jump off of a helicopter.
Bucket list. Oh, I also want to learn the piano, and I want to learn how to sing. Those are two other things.
Ooh, cool. I would love to learn the piano. My grandfather, rest in peace, he used to play, and I would always play like the chopsticks, whatever it's called, and
the super annoying one.
Yeah, exactly. I would love to do that as well. So perhaps we can be like accountability partners on that one.
I was gonna do it with my daughter Cleo, but if you want, we can.
I don't want to cramp your daughter style.
Well, because she's gonna go in, at the first level when she's
right. Okay, so you're gonna
5 years old. So I'll go in at that 5-year-old.
That won't be weird at all. Just you and a bunch of 5-year-old girls.
No, it's the private lessons.
Oh, okay, cool. Do you guys own a piano?
I actually did buy like one of those Casio portable keyboard, like electrical plug-in ones. And so right now she just smashes the keys,
right? But
she's still better than I am right now.
Yeah, it sounds like music.
I figure we could take that maybe to like a friend's. I'm just gonna get a friend to teach me how to play.
Yeah.
And then see what happens there. So
that's very cool.
And the singing thing, I just I feel like anyone can sing.
Yeah.
And but I know that when I sing, people look at me funny, or if it's like a choir, they know who I am when I'm singing,
right?
Because of I'm not on key. But a lot of people you can't always hear your I don't know. True. People are like, can't you hear yourself singing? I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah, I sound just like the record.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you give us a few bars right now?
No.
No,
oh, I can sing Silver Bell.
Ooh, there you go.
I love Christmas songs. So.
Oh well, it's almost your season.
I know. It's already my season. I'm singing Christmas songs, and now Cleo is starting to sing Christmas songs, which is amazing. And so my
Sally's
wife hates
I was gonna say Sally's probably like, please don't do that.
Well, she has that thing where any song gets stuck in her head for a long time, whereas for me, I can hop from one to another. I'll sing all the Christmas songs.
You're not committed to any one song. That's amazing. Actually, I challenged Jess, who I want you to meet from Kula Foods, because she wants to learn how to sing as well.
Right on.
So I challenged her on the show to give us a few bars, but she wimped out. So you just doing the Silver Bells, you just set a record on the Half a Dozen Hospitality podcast for the first vocal performance. Round of applause for Paul on the first vocal performance. The very last question I had for you is, what is in a name? So what does this mean to you? What do these letters, what does this name JUSTEA mean to you, and what do you want for it to mean to others?
JUSTEA everyone spells it wrong. They say just tea, but it's JUSTEA, one T, and it stands for justly made tea. So it's that idea again of ensuring that everyone on the supply chain, everyone on the value chain is earning a just wage for the work that they're putting into it. So
very cool.
Yeah.
I want to take a second before we do wrap up, and I want to say thank you so much for doing what you do. The last 57 minutes and 46, 47, 48 seconds have been amazing. And I'm truly inspired by people like you doing something that obviously is affording you and your family a lifestyle, which is super important. But at the same time, you're affecting positive change. And like I said, that really inspires me. And I'm coming in contact through this podcast, with so many more people like you. And I feel like there's a great opportunity for this podcast, for companies like yours and others that I've met, to really come together and have a larger impact on the world as we know it today. I don't know what that looks like yet, but I really do. I see a bright future for us and food and sustainability. It isn't all doom and gloom because of people like you and companies like yourself. So
I'm like you, man, sharing the story, giving the platform.
Yeah,
appreciate
that's what it's all about. But I really do appreciate what you do. I respect the product, and I will gladly fly the JUSTEA flag in this home and any other homes that I can impact. So thank you again for making such a incredible product with such a great story and affecting people that truly, truly appreciate it. So shout out to yourself, your mom cutting the fabric and wrapping those tins, and your father for taking the initiative many, many years ago to find a way to create positive change and at the same time create a business model. So
Asante Sana.
Asante Sana, which means what again?
Thank you.
Oh, wicked. Okay, that's it. That was easy. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as you do week after week. I am Brad. That is Paul. This is the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. We appreciate you guys so much. Keep supporting this podcast and keep supporting brands like this. Shameless plug. You can get Just Tea just about anywhere.
Natural grocery stores. So yeah, your Whole Foods choices, Urban Fare, Donald's Market,
Very
Famous
cool.
Foods. Yeah.
And if you're
just
not
like the Safeways.
right, and if you're not in Vancouver,
Amazon, justea.com.
beautiful, justea.com. And again, guys, it is JUSTEA.com.
Nailed it.
Awesome, man. Thank you guys again so much. Thank you, Paul, for your time. We're out. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, man.
Easy.